know the final two now, Robert Jenrick, Badenoch. Who do you think could cause most trouble for Labour?
I'm not sure that any of them can, and I think this process has shown it, because I don't think they've really at any point shown that they understand why they lost the general election. You know, the chaos, the hating one another, the obsession with Europe, and banging on about Europe, and now it looks like their leadership contest in the final stages is all going to be about whether they leave the European Court of Human Rights. The fact that nothing works in this country, you know, spending commitments that didn't amount to anything, problems with economic growth and the biggest fall in living standards in our history. I don't think they've understood any of why they lost, and that's the first prerequisite for an opposition. You've got to do that first. And I suspect, I may be wrong about this, but my guess is that James cleverly got a bit complacent, didn't end up ringing round everybody who voted for him last round and just thought, oh, I'm a shoo-in now. And it's complacency which does for politicians in the end. That's
interesting. So that's your theory on why the numbers seem to change?
Yeah, there's that. And another bit maybe, which is, I spoke to a couple of Tory MPs last night, and they were both obsessed with voting for somebody who wasn't their preferred outcome, but to keep the other person out. So I think there's still a bit of hating anybody. Look, it's their issue, private grief, but, you know, they both seem to me to lead with their chins, and both of their chins are made of very fine porcelain.
Interesting, interesting. Well, it's been a rollercoaster of a race. I'm sure there'll be a few more loops.
And somebody's joked in the Labour Party whether we have to declare this as a gift.
Oh, what, because the whole thing is such a gift for the Labour Party?
But, I mean, the message I just said about complacency for them applies to us too. You should never take your opponents for granted just because they look dim-witted doesn't necessarily mean that they can't land punches.
Interesting. What, so you think that they look dim-witted then? Is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, I'm not sure how well that's going. I'm going to be completely honest with you.
No, look, I mean, my basic point is I don't think they've learnt why they lost. And I remember in 2019, when we lost so badly, sitting in the tea room and thinking, you know what, there's no guarantee at the next election, if we don't get this right now, that we will even be the opposition. There's no guarantee the Tories will be the opposition after the next general election. So they do need to get their act together. And in the end, it's good for everybody if there's a sensible opposition. But they've gone so shrill. I mean, so shrill. And they've become a caricature of themselves, and that doesn't work. And this is exactly what we did. I saw Gavin Barwell commenting on this earlier, you know, we used to work for Theresa May, and he's saying, look, the danger is if the Tory party did what Labour did in 2015, when we zoomed off to the left under Corbyn, that's not going to be an answer for them.
I guess the one thing that's keeping them cheery, though, I have to say, is how badly they think you guys are doing in the first 100 days, losing the Chief of Staff. Keir Starmer's approval ratings tanking. He's now less popular than Nigel Farage. They've got a point, haven't they?
Well, I'm struck. I entered a civil partnership in 2010, and we did it very quickly before the general election because we were frightened that the Tories would get rid of them in 2010. I know that seems unlikely now, but that was our feeling at the time. We had a 3-day honeymoon, and I'm not sure that we as the Labour Party have had even a 3-day honeymoon. And there's a good reason for that in one sense, which is, you know, we came to power at a time when people were very, very angry with the state of the country. I've already referred to the biggest fall in living standards in our history, the feeling that nothing works. I saw that stuff about Euston Station, and you think, but that's a story that's been sitting waiting for more than 10 years. People suddenly crowding and, you know, trying to get to... so if you can't even make a station like Euston work, what kind of country are we? So I feel that when it came to the general election, we didn't want to overpromise. If anything, we were determined to underpromise in the hope that we'd be able to over-deliver. And that has created a bit of a feeling of, gosh, where are we at? You know, it's not
bit
felt...
gloomy, to be honest.
Yeah, because, you know, some of the feeling in the country is gloomy. Now, I'm permanently overexcited in my job. I've got a great job. You know, the creative industries, which I have a responsibility for, I think are one of our growth industries.
Which I do want to talk to you about. I absolutely will go on to that. But just before I do, the Labour Party does need to take some responsibility, though, right? I mean, it's unusual, isn't it, to lose a Chief of Staff so quickly into becoming a new government?
Yeah, sure. Though I remember the 2010 government when they came in, and I've talked to people who were involved in that when Cameron came in and formed the coalition government in 2010. They made big mistakes in their first few months. A lot, you know, often you do. You do need to learn the ropes. There are some things I think we are getting right now that we are stitching together that will really deliver into the future. There's a whole load of things.
But you acknowledge that you've made mistakes.
Oh, yeah, of course, of course.